I think that they're going to force Ukraine to surrender land to Russia. We're so fucking cooked. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if Russia is going to keep attacking, I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Top officials from the U.S., Ukraine, Europe, they're meeting in Geneva, Switzerland today.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how to end Russia's war on Ukraine. Now, at the G20 in South Africa, Ukraine's allies are simultaneously working on a unified response to President Trump's 28-point peace plan. And it's been widely criticized as pro-Russia.
If Ukraine loses this war and possibly collapses, it will have an impact on European politics as a whole, on the entire European continent. And that is why we are so committed to this issue. Because if there's a chance to bring about peace, it will also have an impact on the entire European continent.
And President Trump now insists that the 28-point plan is not his final offer. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, they're expected to join today's talks in Switzerland. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will meet with President Trump before Thanksgiving. And Zelensky has called this moment one of the most difficult in his country's history.
I bet.
We get more now from CNN's
Probably
Kevin
true.
Liptak.
Good morning, Victor. An intensive stretch of diplomacy is now underway before President Trump's Thursday deadline for Ukraine to agree to this
Key points: Ukraine gives up some territory. Ukraine agrees to limit the size of its military. Ukraine commits to not joining NATO. Russia agrees it won't invade neighboring countries. Russian sanctions are lifted. And Trump to oversee a peace council similar to Gaza plan. Okay.
8-point plan for ending the war. An American delegation composed of the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, the American Secretary of State Marco Rubio, now in Switzerland ahead of meetings with Ukrainian officials who hope to put their imprint on this plan.
You called it. It was obvious. Russia's like Putin can't get out of the Ukraine war without like seizing some territory. He is in a lot of ways like only as powerful as people perceive him to be. And basically, he can't lose face by losing the Ukraine war without getting something out of it, because he put his country through hell for years. And so it's more important for him to save face and maintain their government than to actually end the war. And he will keep sending people to die, and he will keep blowing up Ukraine in favor of doing that. That's what I think is happening. Yeah, he can't be weak. And so that's literally it. Like another clairvoyance S+ from you. Well, everybody could have expected this. Like anybody who didn't think this was what was going to happen was fucking delusional. You were delusional, and you watching too many Marvel movies. This is just what happens. Through hell? Yeah, really? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Russians are getting killed like crazy. They're getting conscripted into the military. You've got the sanctions that are probably fucking up their entire economy. You've destroyed the reputation of the country as bad as it already was. You made it even worse. Yeah, he fucked the country. He absolutely did. It's not any question. Absolutely, 100%.
And we understand that meetings with Russian officials will happen shortly thereafter. President Trump said on Saturday that this plan was not his final offer. And I think that will be reassuring in some ways to those who view this 28-point proposal as essentially a Russian wish list. And many of the points do amount to the maximalist demands. That
somebody says you're on this. Russia and Putin are totally in the right. It doesn't matter if they're right or not. It matters if they can kill enough people to enforce their will. And I think they can. It doesn't matter who's in the right. It matters who has enough guns, enough bombs, and enough resources to make their will the rule of the law. That's it. Like, it's literally, that is the bottom line.
Kremlin has been making over the course of this war, including that Ukraine give up the entire eastern Donbass region, that it put a cap on the size of its military, that it give up some of its long-range weapons capabilities that it's been provided over the course of this war, and that it agree to never join NATO. And so I think the real question now, and it's the question that I posed to President Trump on Saturday, is what happens...
I love some says not L, never surrender. Okay. When are you signing up?
If Zelensky does not agree to this plan by Thursday. Listen to what he said.
Well, then he can continue to fight his little heart out.
So you hear the president there not saying specifically what the consequences might be for Zelensky not agreeing to this plan, but I think implicit in his answer is that this will then be Zelensky's war and that he will essentially wash his hands of it. Now, European leaders have
CNN's really misleading. There's a lot more to the plan. Russia doesn't get out free. Yeah, I know that. Obviously, like, Russia is going to have to make some concessions, but Russia is getting the main thing that they want. Like I said this before, it's like there's no way that this war ends unless Russia collapses. This war will end with Russia getting part of Ukraine.
Extremely skeptical about this plan. On Saturday, they released a statement saying that it needed additional work and saying that they were in particular concerned about the provisions that would put limitations on Ukraine's armed forces. Even some Republicans here in Washington are voicing concern, including one of the president's top allies in the Senate, the South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who said that parts of this proposal were, quote, very problematic and can be made better. Perhaps blunter was Mitch McConnell, the former Republican leader in the Senate, by no means a fan of President Trump's. He said that, quote, Putin has spent the entire year trying to play President Trump for a fool. Victor?
All right, Kevin Lip.
I really don't think this has anything to do with Trump. I'm going to be real. I don't think it has anything to do with him.
Thank you very much. For more on today's talks and what's at stake, I want to bring in now global affairs analyst Kimberly Dozier. Good to have you in studio. Let's first get your reaction to...
It's a war between Ukraine and Russia, primarily. I mean, Trump can try to intercede into it, but he can't stop what they're already going to do. Yeah, it started when Biden was the president.
The president saying that this is not his final offer after making this a pretty hard deadline for Thanksgiving.
He said that on the way to a plane, and it gives him some maneuver room. But let's be clear, what's been put to Ukraine is Russia's wish list. And this seems to have been drafted by Envoy Steve Witkoff together with the Russian negotiator and not with any Ukrainian input, leaving Kyiv and European officials backpedaling, dismayed. It's as if 6 to 8 months of work trying to convince Trump that he can't reward Putin for aggression has just evaporated.
The logic and the rationality that these people have is based around like Reddit fairness. Like this is my outlook on the war, right? Russia is the aggressor. They shouldn't have gone into Ukraine. They're the ones that are in the wrong, and they should get nothing. That's what my opinion of it is. But that's not what's happening. It's not. It's not realistic. You could say that, and does that feel good to say? Yeah, it feels really good to say. But that's not reality.
Yeah, and some of the requirements here would be that Crimea, Luhansk, Donetsk would now be recognized as Russian, even as by the United States, limiting the Ukrainian military at 600,000. They're currently estimated 800,000. A constitutional amendment that they would never seek NATO membership, on and on. It's not clear that Putin would ever sign on to a deal.
True.
But if this is weakened in any way, or one of those requirements is removed,
it's probably not going to happen.
Putin certainly is less likely to sign it then, right?
If Putin would sign a deal...
Someone says your opinion doesn't matter, sign an agreement to defend Ukraine after losing SSR and they're not doing the job. You've typed that too many times, you're going to get permabanned. And also, like, my opinion, nobody's opinion matters, actually. The only people whose opinion matter are the Russians. That's actually the truth. That's the only people whose opinions really matter, is the Russians. And if they're not going to agree to this, then you're at an impasse. You can't do anything.
At all. Yeah. This is the deal he would sign, but it has things in it that are poison pills that I can't see President Zelensky swallowing. Like,
then they're going to keep dying. Like, I don't see the other, like, there's no alternative for this. Then there's just going to be more of their people that are going to get killed for another year.
Giving up any chance of prosecuting Russians for war crimes. And CNN and other outlets have extensively documented...
Big countries don't get prosecuted for war crimes. Small countries that lose wars get prosecuted for war crimes. China is never going to get prosecuted for a war crime. America is never going to get prosecuted for a war crime. It doesn't happen. The entire idea of the idea of a crime means that you are inside of a system that you're accountable to. China and America are not accountable. Right? Tell it to Germany? Oh, you mean Germany after they lost the war? You mean the exact thing that I said? Yeah. And so anyway, they're not accountable to these systems.
The horrific things that have happened that go against the laws of war against Ukrainian civilians.
The laws of war. This person's an expert? How did they bring this retard on? How can you be so stupid?
Things like massacres of Bucha, etc.
Oh my God.
So between that and leaving Ukraine essentially defenseless, what they're asking Ukraine to do is what it did when it gave up its nuclear weapons, and in return got a piece of paper that said Russia would never attack, and if it did, the West would drive Russia out and defend Ukraine.
Yeah, but they weren't really going to do that. They should have never given up the weapons. Should have never done it.
Well, it's
a mistake.
Didn't happen in 2022. European nations are still afraid to put their troops on Ukrainian soil for fear they trigger a nuclear conflagration with Russia.
Well, it's also that the other reason why other countries don't want to send their troops is that they would lose votes. I don't think that a lot of I bet a lot of French people probably don't want to send, like their brothers and fathers and sons out to go and die for Ukraine. I just don't really think that's the case. I could be wrong, but I just don't think so.
So putting that kind of guarantee in this 28-point deal, again, is no guarantee of Ukraine's security.
Yeah, it didn't happen in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea then either. I think we have President Zelensky speaking for himself and reacting to this. Let's play that.
The national Ukrainian interest must be taken into account. We are not making loud statements. We will calmly work with America and all partners. There will be a constructive search for solutions with our main partner. I will present arguments, I will convince, and offer alternatives.
Good luck.
But we will definitely not give the enemy a reason to say that Ukraine does not want peace, that it is they disrupting the process, and that Ukraine is not ready for diplomacy.
What influence do you think the European allies of Ukraine have over the deal that will eventually...
Nothing. They can't do anything.
...be presented or be the starting point for negotiations?
I think what you're going to have to see going forward is the British Prime Minister, the French President, the Finnish President getting on the phone with Trump and selling him on this is bad, this is dangerous for us, and here's why. And trying to explain to him the history of when Russia gets a piece of something, like what it's done to the country of Georgia. Once it gets a foothold, then it uses that area
just to get more of a foothold.
Spread influence, buy politicians off, and eventually you get a situation like Belarus where the government is working in lockstep with Moscow.
Oh, how convenient.
That could be Ukraine's fate.
What a surprise.
If this deal were allowed to go forward. And then that's also a signal to Russia, when you attack, you can win. And
Duh. It's crazy how many of these people are so idealistic. I wonder how many more people are going to die because of this idealism.
Countries like Estonia, et cetera, in the Baltics, that Putin has recently threatened to invade and take back. They're saying, we're next if you allow something like this to move forward.
Yeah, and there is that deadline that's coming. The president was asked if the U.S. will withdraw military support. He said at that point they can fight their little hearts out. My question is this going to be a request to sign a deal or request to sign a document as a starting point for negotiations? Because that's important, what they're asking him to sign.
I think what you have in this meeting happening in Geneva, you've got skilled negotiators.
Russia's not going to accept a ceasefire because even though they are maybe losing more people than Ukraine is, they are bleeding Ukraine dry at a rate faster than what they're bleeding themselves dry at. So even though they're losing more, maybe, it doesn't matter. They don't have to. Why would they accept a ceasefire if in their mind they're winning? Why would they do that? It's like calling a timeout whenever you're in the lead. Of course that's not going to happen. You sure about that? It seems that way to me, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody's sure, but it seems that way.
Like Marco Rubio, who know Ukraine could sign something that says this is a starting point, so you can get everyone in the room. They can't sign the deal as is because it's tantamount to giving up. Zelensky would lose his office in any next election, and Ukraine wouldn't be long for this world as an independent entity if they signed up to all of these various things that would leave them hobbled and also hobble Europe's ability to protect Ukraine in future.
Just a few days out from the deadline, we'll see what comes out of Geneva.
The Ukraine's cooked. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think that's what happened, right? Why do we care? Russia's our enemy, so anything that drains Russia and undermines Putin is a win for us. Why should we give Russia an easy win? Well, I mean, it's a matter of resources, time, and the investment of America, right? Do you want to have American resources going towards draining Russia of its resources, or do you want to have American resources going towards funding schools, right? So there's an opportunity cost for everything, and I think that's kind of the world that we're living in now, right? And so that's it. Murray Bear spent here. Yeah, and that's the way that people see. Why are they our enemy? I mean, Russia's, probably fucking like 50 years of fucking conflicts, right? Have you tried to learn more about this conflict deeply without the mass media takes, but war maps, learn the positions of both sides so you can express more balanced opinion? I'm just going to perm ban you. You're simply attacking my credibility rather than presenting an argument. If you want to present an argument, that's fine. But like just saying that I'm dumb, I don't know what I'm talking about. By the way, I've been right about this the entire time. I have been. I've said that it wasn't going to end, and I've been right. I don't care what your Reddit logic or anything else that you have is. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is going to happen is probably what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong, but I don't think I will be. Russia is supposed to fold quickly, nothing to do with them being our enemy or not. Turns out Russia can work with the rest of the world. Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows? It's not that Russia isn't our enemy, it's that we're Russia's enemy. Russia attacks us consistently, stopping losers in the chat, arguing back. Your emotions don't care about what the real world reflects. Exactly. This is just the way it is. And it's unfortunate, but I think it's also the truth. And so we'll see what happens. Let me go back over. I'll look at a few more of these comments here, too, because there's been a bunch more. And such a sad reality, but that's life in reality. This could happen to Israel just the same. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think this is the way that a lot of people feel about it. Like, at least like a lot of Americans. I think that a lot of Americans are fatigued from having to watch foreign wars take precedent over, like, domestic problems. I think that's what's happened, and that's the reason why you have a lot of fatigue, and I would say also, like, kind of just general ambivalence, where people don't really care what happens to Israel or Ukraine or whatever. And I don't think that you can blame that. Like, I don't think you can fault an American for not thinking that or for not caring. And the reason why is very fucking simple. It's because, like, if you can't afford a house, you can't afford anything else, then how are you going to go and, like, get upset about fucking Ukraine, right? How are you going to get mad about that? So, yeah, same in France. Exactly. Yeah, the U.S. started meddling in everyone's politics long ago. Your fault, guys? I guess so. Do you really think Ukraine is the reason why we aren't funding schools? Does it matter what I think? Does it really matter what I think whenever that's the perception of the public? Because it's undeniable that this is the perception of the public. And if it is, perception is reality. You care about the way that things are. I don't. I know this might sound stupid, but in politics, you should never base things off of how things are or how they should be. You should always base things off of how they're perceived. How things are perceived is what matters. That's the only thing that matters. Like, it doesn't matter, like, your argument and your explanation of why it's different, the optics of it. Yes, perception and common sense. Exactly. And this is what people decide and vote based off of. So, yeah, it's really just that simple. I don't know what else to say. Hold me up. I'd love to take on my last message. What is your message? Let me read it real quick. The biggest mistake of the West is making Russia an enemy instead of an ally. The real enemy is going to be China, and we're just pushed into Russia. We just push Russia into China's hands. I don't think that either one of them need to be our enemy. I think that's ridiculous. I think that we can do business and work with them all the time. And the best way for us to establish peaceful relations with those countries is to have intermingling trade. I think the entire idea, like, why do we need enemy countries to begin with, right? Who decided that we need enemy countries? It's fucking ridiculous. Like, you know, who decided we need enemy countries? People that want to have bombs. People that want to make bombs. People that want to make money making bombs.